All right, Alex. So this has been a day for you
Yeah,
all and the Chrisley
been great.
family, that's for sure. A lot of people are just wondering, how long has this been in the works?
Well, I think as soon as President Trump was elected, the family knew that this was something they were going to try to do, was to ask the
Mhm.
president for a pardon. And so since November, we've been working on a plan to, put their story together, make it as persuasive as possible, and eventually get the president to see this is a good decision. And he did.
Is everything signed, sealed, and delivered now? The paperwork is in already?
Not everything, so it's happening sort of this evening as we go. They are not yet released.
I think the release said that it could be as early as tonight or a couple days. Where do you see that falling right
Yeah, I
now?
don't think it's going to last past tomorrow, and I hope that it doesn't last past tomorrow.
That is something that we heard the president say as well in the video to Savannah, that he hopes that they can get this done by tomorrow. So, in effect,
Yeah,
we
technically,
could.
when his pen hits the paper, they are no longer supposed to be detained.
Mhm.
And so we hope the bureaucracy and the BOP will quickly make sure that's what happens.
So, in your estimation, by tomorrow, we will see Todd and Julie in cars on their way home, getting on a plane, going to home with their family.
That's certainly what we would expect.
When did you first hear that this pardon was actually going to happen?
Just a few minutes after Savannah got the call from President Trump. And I think she talked about this on social media. She got a call from basically the president's secretary who said, "Hey, I've got a call for you," and hands the phone over, and it's President Trump saying this is what he's going to do.
Wow.
That's what we found out.
So logistically, how does this work? Because both Todd and Julie are in separate states. I know Savannah said she's on her way to pick up her parents. Does one kid go pick up mom, kid go pick up dad? How is this logistically going to work?
Yeah, unfortunately, they are sort of in opposite directions from their home where they live now in Nashville. So some of the family's going to go north to Lexington to get Julie, and some of the family's going to go south to Pensacola to pick up Todd.
How did they react to the news, Todd and Julie?
Oh, I mean, I think they're ecstatic. This is something that I think neither of them expected, because when you are serving a sentence, you don't want false hope, and you don't know what day you may get a phone call like this. But they're certainly very, very excited.
Who told them? Did they hear the news from Savannah? Did they hear the news from the Bureau of Prisons?
From Savannah.
Wow. I can't imagine what that phone call was like.
Good one. A very good
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Is Savannah bringing anything? I know she said she was upstairs. They were getting their room ready. They were getting the house ready. Is she bringing anything from home with her? I guess besides a change of clothes to bring to her
Yeah,
parents.
I definitely know a change of clothes is on the list. I think besides that, I doubt there's much that Todd and Julie want besides getting to their house and to give their family members a hug.
I was gonna say, is there anything that they've asked for specifically, for her to bring to them? I guess not. Just basically, I guess you said getting home.
Yeah, getting home, getting family they can hug.
I know back in February of this year, Savannah met with the president and she was advocating for her parents' release. Can you give us any details in that conversation, what some of the things she said to him were?
Yeah, I think the conversations have been pretty consistent with the story we've been telling publicly, that there were some real issues with the trial. There were some real issues with the way they were selected for prosecution. I think had they not been reality TV stars who were sort of aligned with conservative movement, I think they probably would not have been prosecuted at all. And so they've kept the story pretty consistent about why they were targeted and also the way they were treated. I mean, the sentences in this case were extremely, extremely serious for compared to other defendants in similar situations.
Did he give her any indication then that he believed a pardon would be coming?
I think the White House and President Trump has always just said, we're going to take it seriously, we're going to look at it, and that's what they've done.
So despite this presidential pardon, are they still required, Todd and Julie, to pay restitution for the crimes that they were convicted of?
Yeah, so some of that will depend on how the pardon is written. We understand it to be, based on what the president said today, a full pardon, which would wipe away any of those sorts of penalties. So things like restitution or the fines would be removed. It's the criminal restitution, where the judge found that all the banks total across a number of years had lost that amount of money, and so that's the amount that they were ordered to repay. And so that was a form of restitution.
Has that been in the works? Have they been repaying this up until now, or have they already repaid the entire amount?
Yeah, so the government has been collecting some of those funds since the sentences were imposed.
So what happens then? Is that money just already gone? Is there some sort of restitution back to them?
No, generally when your conviction gets overturned, however it gets overturned, on appeal or through a presidential pardon, all the fines that go with it or restitution that's been paid would have to be recovered. And so that would eventually go back to the Chrisleys.
When was the last time that Todd and Julie spoke to each other?
The day that they went into prison.
You know, in your press release, you said that this pardon corrects a, quote, deep injustice. You know there's going to be a big faction of the country that's saying, what is the injustice here? They were convicted by a jury of their peers.
Well, look, I think people these days are very aware that there are plenty of convictions that happen in unjust circumstances, and this was a case of that. Mm-hmm. I think I challenge anybody who has that opinion to read sort of our hundreds of pages of post-trial motions or appellate briefs and walk away feeling like this is a case that you've got a firm conviction that the right thing was done. A small example is Georgia. The state of Georgia paid $1 million to Todd and Julie for violations of their rights in the investigation that led to this conviction. That's not something that happens every day, and I think it should give those folks pause.
You also mentioned that if they weren't reality TV stars and aligned with the conservative movement, you don't think that this case or conviction may have even happened. But there will be people that say that because of their celebrity and the proximity to the president, now this looks like they are getting off. I don't want to say scot-free because they have served 2.5 years in prison, but that they are now skating the system once again.
No, I think it's definitely, Todd and Julie are celebrities, and that's not true of a lot of folks who are sitting in federal prison. So they get the benefit of that celebrity, but it is that celebrity, I think, which originally put them in the crosshairs of prosecutors.
Savannah said in her release that this administration does not hand out favors. On the call, we heard the president say that Todd and Julie were given a pretty harsh treatment based on what I'm hearing. It sounded like he wasn't that familiar with the case. What was presented to him, and who did present him with this evidence to make this decision?
I can tell you that the part that we were involved with, there were hundreds of pages that were submitted to the White House counsel's office. When you're president of the United States, you have a massive agenda of everything from every security situation across the globe to the U.S. and global economy to domestic affairs to criminal justice. And so he relies on a team of advisors. They had hundreds of pages of material to work through in this case. This was not a sort of fly-by-night operation.
Savannah also said that she's going to continue to fight against wrongful convictions and injustices within the prison system. She says that her fight is far from over. Even though she has gotten her parents out, she wants to use her voice to be an advocate for those who don't have a voice. Does that also extend to Todd and Julie? Will this now, will we see this family now be advocates for prison reform?
I think absolutely. I think it changes you being inside a prison and seeing firsthand the way that people are treated in this country. Todd and Julie are incredibly empathetic and caring people, and they care about the people around them. I talk to them fairly regularly in jail when they were in jail, and I can tell you that they have stories about the people that were there with them, and they care about those people and try and make sure that their lives are a little better. So I fully expect when they come out, you will see advocacy on this issue from both Todd and Julie.
Mm-hmm. You know that there's a lot of fans of their show, and people want to know as well, are the Lifetime cameras up and rolling, and will all of this be documented?
I hope so. Honestly, I think so much of the criminal court case was not documented by the show, and I think it really should have been, because so much of what happened, it really showed the injustice of how they ended up where they were. So I hope that it will be, and I hope that they'll get the opportunity to sort of, bloom again.